Okay, welcome, Jack Knudsen. This is your second session. Thank you so much for gracing us with your poetry. I want to
Okay.
give the artist the floor.
Okay. By the way, my name is pronounced Knutsen.
Knudsen's
That's
apologies.
a Swedish name. Nobody gets it right. So anyway, that's okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to read a selection of poetry, see how many I get through. I'm going to read some of my own, and then I'm going to start off with a very famous poet named William Butler Yeats. And this one is called When You Are Old. When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. So I realized that I wrote something that's kind of evoked that. And it's called Tracks. This is by me, wrote it about ending relationships. Tracks. I see our whole life together, looking back like tracks in the snow. When the sun shines or the wind blows, they'll be covered, melt away, and disappear. What's left, only you and I will know, just as what has been, no one else will ever understand that journey. Now something has died, but it's meant to be. The old skin is sloughed off. What remains is rough, hewn like stone. Where the feeling is gone, the limb has died. Someday the whole tree will fall and pass away back into the earth. What of the many long gone summers, the shade given by those caressing arms, the leaves that rained in fall, the bark that bristled and burst, bigger and stronger? So many creatures called the rugged embrace of those limbs their home. The craggy root, like an eagle's claw, at last releases its furious grip. Something remains forever, immutable, long standing. It's just that there's no simple vestige of which to frame or shrine in which to place it. So I thought I'd read one more, another William Butler Yeats, just interesting poet. This one is called Lake Isle of Innisfree. I will arise and go now and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's all a glimmer, and soon a purple glow, and evening full of linnets' wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray. I hear the deep hearts. I'm sorry, somebody called on my phone. Tell them to stop. Stop. Damn thing. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to read that last stanza again. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement gray. I hear it in the deep heart's core. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote, another one, and I have to explain it, I think, because we're always hearing about how we want the light, that illumination and understanding is brought by light, and have the more light, the better. And then we need to, if you remember, Lucifer is the devil. That's the name for Satan. And what does Lucifer mean? It means he who brought the light. That's kind of a contradiction. So what it is, the point is that it brought so much light that you couldn't see and you couldn't think and you couldn't get in tune with your internal spirit and what's not seen. So when I was thinking about that, I wrote one called Call the Night. Darkness, darkness, be my guide to the secrets of the other side. Spin fate's web, whirl fortune's wheel. Break down the walls, the light does seal. Darkness, darkness, be my door into the waters of the whirling world. Starless night, be my guide to all the mysteries the light does hide. Let no Lucifer light of day blind my journey, lead me astray. Darkness, darkness, now call the night, put the illusion of day to flight. Darkness, darkness, be my door down the stairs to the nether world, along the river of the dreamless sky. Take my hands to wing and fly. So something else a little bit on that line is sometimes you think something just comes to you and it has a metaphorical meaning that's hard to verbalize other than but what you say. So in that vein, there's Tophet. If you remember, Tophet is often mentioned in the Bible and it means hell. And sometimes we feel like we're walking through it. So here's one I wrote called The Land of Tophet. Slogging through this land of Tophet, I need the guidance of a prophet. Through the distance across its moor, my saddlebags dirty and poor. But I'll conquer the morning with a coffee cup. At evening, wine I'll sup. The reaper with his scythe at my door is asking for the address of me, Joseph Zor. I think I'm going to read one of my favorite poets, Percy Shelley, Percy Bysshe Shelley. And I read this last time, called Ozymandias. I met a traveler from an antique land who said 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, by the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. No thing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. The end of an empire. Something a little happier. El Dorado by Mr. Poe. Who's known for his macabre stories of the pit and the pendulum, and he wrote the Raven. That's a good one. Maybe I'll read that. It's long, but it's really fun. Not today though. El Dorado. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song, in search of El Dorado. But he grew old this night so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot of ground that looked like El Dorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of El Dorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow. Ride, boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek for El Dorado. Another, I've read, but I think this, like I said, this is probably my favorite poem. It's almost religious, and it's very profound. By Dylan Thomas. I think it's the best poem in the English language, besides maybe some Shakespeare. But it's called The Force That Through the Green Fuse Drives the Flower. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower, drives my green age, that blasts the roots of trees, is my destroyer. And I am dumb to tell the crooked rose my youth is bent by the same wintry fever. The force that drives the water through the rocks drives my red blood, that dries the mouthing streams, turns mine to wax. And I am dumb to mouth unto my veins how at the mountain spring the same mouth sucks. The hand that whirls the water in the pool stirs the quicksand, that ropes the blowing wind, hauls my shroud sail. And I am dumb to tell the hanging man how of my clay is made the hangman's line. The lips of time leach to the fountain head. Love drips and gathers, but the fallen blood shall calm her sores. And I am dumb to tell a weather's wind how time has ticked a heaven round the stars. And I am dumb to tell the lover's tomb how at my sheet goes the same crooked worm.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So, one thing is I sailed in the Merchant Marine over 10 years, a long time ago, and it's not like it was before. Many people didn't really have a home. And when you were gone, you were gone. You couldn't contact. One time they said, well, why don't you, send a message to your wife? And I said, okay. So I had to go to the radio operator, and they call him Sparks. And it was like $5 a word to just say, meet me Monday. And that's it. Many people didn't even have any, mostly they were men sailors. They didn't really have much of a family or anything. They go in the Union Home, there'd be a note saying, Joe Schwartz, contact your wife. And the letter was 18 months ago. I mean, anyway, so this is it's called Sailor's Wife. Bar woman. Sailor's wife, bar woman. She's a sailor's wife with as pure a love I'd ever known. I picked her because her eyes were calm, without malice or cunning. Only a mutual tension reflected, soon to be fulfilled. She loved me like a tired wife without animosity or demand. I slipped between her like a fish in the sea. She made no attempt to keep me. The comfort was lonely, and I asked how she felt. About what, she said. Us. You child, she smiled, island cinnamon accent echoing off her pearl black skin. I put the money on her hungry table, surreptitiously more than we agreed. I left late, and the bouncer nodded with his boulder rock shoulders rippling like a wave. When I got back, the ship was still there. It reminded me of her, waiting with a lonely comfort, like a tired wife with a hungry table. Warm moonlight echoing off the pearl black water, without animosity or demand, with as pure love I'd ever known. So, when I lived in Fremont, I read this last time too. It was about there was a boat being built in a hayfield. It seemed ridiculously out of place. It was funny. Somebody was building a boat, and it was just surrounded by all those hayfields. And it was very bizarre to see that boat. It was funny, and it was there for a long time. So it evoked this. This is my poem. Birth of a boat. I passed it every day, an embryo gestating like a cicada in the earth, outplaced in a hayfield, 20,000 leagues from the sea, prostrate, an absurd monument, as helpless as a back-flicked beetle, begging for direction, the static hull specimen mounted, washed by amber waves of grain, longed for something it could not conceive, never doubting one instant that somewhere existed a thing like the sea. Amidst its unyielding dry demand in a hopeless setting, my routine of weeks and months greeted it, like a friend accepted it, took it for granted. As we aged together and its distant features changed as slowly as mine by the old man who secretly labored on its gaunt ironwood visage, only in my absence. Hurriedly one day I noticed nothing, and the next the same. Another forgotten greeting, till quietly the third time I had time to hello. I felt an abundance before I knocked its door. The hull full bloomed was gone, like a grown child, like a late father I'd missed its birthing, and like a childhood friend I never saw it again. Now when I pass by that way, I still look for that boat, born from a hayfield. It's probably out there sailing somewhere. So another what I wrote, I did read it last time also, was the almost a true story. The except, there was a captain who basically did this, but the ship was lucky to actually survive. And it's called Typhoon Delilah. It was the winter of 77, sailing the China Sea in a rust bucket, christened Copa. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give some definitions because I just realized people may not know these, but then I'll start again. Helmsman is the sailor who steers the ship. And chief is head of the engine department. Black gang is the engine room personnel. That's a historical reference to coal-powered days. Formosa's contemporary Taiwan. Mate is the chief mate, second in command after the captain. And the Kopah was a real ship, pre-World War II built bulk carrier. Dead ahead is a nautical term. It means directly ahead. And the events of this poem are based on a captain who in 1977 literally commanded the helmsman to keep your course. Sailor dead ahead, right into a typhoon. True. Typhoon Delilah. It was the winter of 77, sailing the China Sea in a rust bucket christened Kopah for the shipping company. We sailors were on the fantail, drinking a Formosan brew with the oiler, firemen, and the rest of the black gang crew. It was then the wind picked up and the sea began to foam. She was Typhoon Delilah, and we were so far away from home. Dead ahead she lay, black as night, angry as all hell's devils and screeching with affright. Should we steer around her or push this bucket through? The helmsman asked the captain, wondering what to do. The skipper in the trance sounded strange as he said, "Keep your course, sailor. Dead ahead, dead ahead." The helmsman paled and swallowed hard, steering as was bid. In his desperate mind, he bade farewell to his wife and only kid. Just then the mate ran up and called, "Captain, sir, that's Typhoon Delilah. We can't possibly sail through her." "Mind your place, sailor. I'm skipper of the ship. I've met Delilah before. This time we'll give her the slip." The seas picked up, crashing over the bridge. The wind howled like a freight train, out of control on a mountain ridge. The Kopah was tossed like a cork in a rolling keg of beer when the chief rang up and cried, "We can't give you steam to steer." The captain just repeated, "Dead ahead, dead ahead." The engineer cried, "You're crazy. It's nonsense what you said." The bell of the ship rang frantically fore and aft. It was rung by Delilah, and it said to man the life raft. The tie cord had broken. She'd taken control of the bell and turned a peaceful voyage into a living hell. The crew in dread heard the bidding of that bell and dutifully ran to their stations in answer to its knell. The captain shouted, "Come back, I never gave the word." But his speech was wasted and the wind had never heard. Every man was drowned trying to clear the ship. Every man save the captain. Only he would give her the slip. He was condemned by the fates that rule heaven and earth to forever sail into Delilah for all that he was worth, and to command with these few words more honored were never said. "Keep your course, Kopah. Dead ahead, dead ahead." Almost literally true, except the ship survived, the captain lost his license. A good deal of cargo was lost. But it doesn't have to be based on a true story. It's just kind of what it was like 50 years ago, sailing. Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. This is beautiful poetry. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eyes of heaven shine, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So Shakespeare's talking about that his love is never going to lose beauty forever. Yeah. So I went to, this was some time ago. I was traveling across the country. I stopped in Little Bighorn, Montana. And there's a park there where the actual battle that Custer had with the Native Americans, Dakota Sioux, had, and they have the different places marked. They even have Custer's death place marked, and it's a very sobering, somber experience to go there and feel that history and just the sadness or the conflict of such a thing, and understand the fury of the American Indians. But anyway, I called it Echo from a Visit to Little Bighorn, Montana. There's a river there. It's called the Bighorn River, and then there's the offshoot that's Little, and they call that the Little Bighorn. That's where the battle was. Echo from a Visit to Little Bighorn, Montana. The late sun of winter arrives out of place. It's a warm memory of lost childhood and a stodgy season of cold adulthood. I sit crumpled in serpentine like a spider. Mammoth bones move like a flea on ice. There's a cup of red blood on my doorstep, a gift of the fatal season, where a war whoop whispers in my stone ear like an axe at my fingertips, while my stomach crows for one last ghost dance. I can hear a cry as old as birth itself, seething like a wind chime on windy seas of grass. My heart beats like a trumpet. I feel like a sailor in ruddy solar seas. As my naked feet drag through the hard, hilly earth, married as they are to such a graceful woman, I leave without song or memory except for a hard, stony seed buried now in the yellow-haired intestines of my long, crooked soul. I think I'll conclude with a childish poem in my book. It's some silly poems written for kids, and then at the back of the end of the book, there's some fascinating facts about the animals. So they're supposed to be fun and not be. They're just supposed to be fun and just get into the words. And then my philosophy was don't try to write in just simple 8-year-old or 5-year-old vocabulary, but write just for fun, just the words. So it's called Admiral Aardvark's Fantastic Menagerie. And the first one, the introductory one, is Admiral Aardvark Sails the Sea. And here's a little picture of him. I don't know if you can see it, but he's done by a professional illustrator, happened to be a friend of ours too. Admiral Aardvark sails the sea. Admiral Aardvark on a horse cashew bravely sails the ocean blue. His helmet, stars pulled from the sky, shine from his head like a butterfly. His boat an ark, no small canoe, full of animals just like a zoo. His favorite meal, a bowl of ants. His tail lassos around his pants. With golden buckle and telescope, he keeps special magic in an envelope. Like Noah, he built an ark to sail the world with adventurous lark. Through childhood's rainy day window sails he against a gale of orchids with serenity, till he rests at night, quiet and secure, in a bed under the covers, kissed with nurture by his mom and dad in a warm burrow, to sleep secure until tomorrow. And when the wind blows through the sunlit shadows, through our pockets, sleeves, and moonlit meadows, we can be just like Admiral Aardvark throughout our day, with happy adventures as our lifetime way. So anyway, I thought I'd just conclude with that.
I love that. So poetic and very fun.
That's
Thank
good.
you so much, Jack Knutson.
Okay.
Happy holidays.
Okay. Happy holidays to you too. Hope you have a good holiday.
Bye-bye.
Hope you enjoyed it. Okay.